invention we've ever come up with is called a tree.
We need to put a value on nature.
So yes to economy, yes to environment, and no, there's no opposition.
We have to make these into a match together.
We want sustainable solutions. We want people power solutions. We want solutions that connect the people to the ground. There are a lot of devastation in communities in different landscapes across the world. People are dying every day for sins they did not commit. And we are here to say, no more corruption with our COP. We want the people's voice to be heard. We want a climate just solution. We don't want carbon markets. We want people power solutions. And that's why we're calling our governments on COP to listen to the voice of the people. That is why we are here.
Hundreds of activists gathered to demand rich countries take more drastic action to address the climate crisis.
They have decided that they don't want us there. They are debadging us. How can they?
So what happened to your badge?
They were not happy that I decided to help and join this movement, and they were not happy with what I had to say. They took my badge immediately and tried to throw me out.
Who opened the garage door?
The UNFCCC security. They were so afraid of us that they wanted to get rid of us as soon as possible. That's something completely ridiculous. We spend months and months and months trying to get accreditation, trying to plan out things that happen inside here, but they refuse to listen to us. They refuse to listen to our voice, and that is just blasphemy.
Indigenous peoples are the ones that are taking care of these lands and biodiversity and protecting forests, protecting water. Yet we're not being listened to, we're not being included in these conversations, and yeah, we're being lined up to march as like animals with police around us, and we should be inside there.
What's happening inside these meetings is that colonial governments are making agreements to create carbon market mechanisms so we cannot commodify our air and we cannot sell our forests to corporations that are trying to continue business as usual and create fossil fuels and extractivism in our backyards, further perpetuating the marginalization of our indigenous communities from our lands, territories, and rob us of our self-determination and sovereignty. These carbon market mechanisms and market-based solutions to the climate crisis do not actually reduce emissions. Instead, what they're doing is allowing dirty corporations to continue business as usual, growing emissions annually every single day, and destroying our lands and ecosystems worldwide.
How can the UN pretend to have solutions, even the states, when they don't even listen to the grassroots people, the grassroots communities, the indigenous people? It's impossible, you know, because we can no longer go on without listening to them, and not even listening, working with them. So when I see COP25, it's still like it was 30 years ago, and you have indigenous people in side events, and nobody comes to attend the side events. It's bullshit, you know, it's total bullshit. So it's false solutions. When we say it's false solution, it's real, you know, because they are talking about finance. It's business as usual. They just want to make money.
Carbon markets have done nothing to slow down or stop our emissions. To think that this is being funded, this is being used and portrayed by the UN as a solution is ludicrous. It is backwards, it is against science, and to think that these people are supposedly leaders it's horrendous. It's scary for us as people, as young people.
Welcome to the fourth day of COP25 here in Madrid. We are here from different organizations this morning, and we are here to launch the No to Carbon Markets Day.
We sent a message out in 2015 at the signing of the Paris Accord, the agreement, that's going to be a crime against humanity and Mother Earth because it was nothing but a trade instrument. The United Nations, the governments of the world, the corporations, extractive industries, and some of our environmental organizations who are here in this space. They want to use half of the world's land, including indigenous peoples' territories and our small farmers and our peasants' farms, for a false solution to climate change called carbon offsets, carbon markets. Carbon markets do not reduce global warming. Carbon offsets privatize Mother Earth and nature, including the air that we breathe, and pretend to use the soils, our forests, our plantations, our agriculture, and other ecosystems as sponges for greenhouse gases instead of cutting emissions. That's why we are concerned about this. We come from the belly of the beast where there's an expansion of forced fossil fuel development. So the greenwash that they are using is this market-based solution. So offsets corrupt the sacred. They corrupt the sacred. The planet grab for carbon offsets, which may affect 1 billion people, has many names. RED, nature-based solutions.
One is how is natural climate solutions different from REDD, RED, the reducing emissions from deforestation? How do they function?
No, actually,
the same
yeah, actually, basically the same thing.
Nations, they've been peddling terms like net zero emission targets, nature-based solutions, and pushing for carbon capture. Basically, all of these umbrella terms like carbon pricing and all of these systems that are embedded in Article 6 and seen as many domestic policies around the world, masking the fact that they are just pushing for old systems like carbon offsets and carbon trading. This perpetuation and masking of these terms that are really just an old concept that we know doesn't work. It continues a system of false solutions that they think that we don't understand, but we understand very well what they are doing by rebranding the same old things that haven't worked in the first place.
When I'm doing my day job and trying to work with companies to help them offset their carbon footprint, I'm not always dealing with the best carbon projects, not the most interesting. Sometimes stuff that we've seen in the market for a long, long time, and people want an alternative. You'd be amazed if you put it in front of them what the reaction would be to something that's in your area. So that's a huge lesson from this. Get it out there and start trying to sell the concept as soon as possible.
Tomorrow I'll be launching a very important announcement in terms of carbon emission trade-offs, etc., which we're working on at the moment with the aviation sector. So we are now in the mode of action, 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 providing tools and actually measurement. So who would have thought that the ICC, which someone described as a grand old lady of business, would actually end up being a perky, attitude-full organisation. That's where we are, that's the Climate Coalition, and that's the fun we're all going to have, because it's a positive narrative for change, and the business community is all in. Thank you.
For the beginning, before they were just trying to commodify all life, like, you know, that this trade and environment bridge that we're trying to create through greening the economy. It sounds like beautiful, sounds very rational. But at the end, it's just commodification of life. So the projects like Red Plus and others alike, commodifying nature, commodifying the forests, it's not a good solution because they are privatizing life. It's another mechanism just to take over. So instead of taking over, we need to take care, give care for life.
The majority of the Earth's remaining forests and biodiversity is protected by indigenous peoples who've protected forests and will continue to do so for thousands of years, but only if colonialist programs, like the ones that are being implemented and enshrined in Article 6, do not interfere with that process. We have evidence, so much evidence, that shows that since the World Bank and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change launched the Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation, or RED programs, in 2007, that communities have been massively impacted. Some of the impacts include loss of rights, loss of forest entry and use, deforestation, cultural degradation, land grabbing, and armed dispossession.
We come to the United Nations seeking justice, and all we see are false solutions, like Article 6, where there's carbon trading, where women are not involved in the decision making. We see the REDS Plus program, where they're trying to carbon trade there as well, and where they carbon trade in South America or in other indigenous territories, that allows them to pollute my people to death. We're suffering from environmental genocide as a result of the types of false solutions that they're making. We are enacting in my nation the rights of nature, because we believe we are not just protectors of nature, we are nature protecting itself. And we need to all be aware of that situation, and we need to seek balance. It's not about not empowering the men, because we have powerful men in our family, in our nation, in our world. But there has to be a balance reattained as creation was originally intended. Rights of nature can help us find that balance. If we can enact those in the laws that human beings are creating, that men are creating, or else humans are on the way to self-destruction and will be part of the 1 million species that disappeared.
This COP 2050, we don't see any good advancement. So maybe this coming week there's going to be a little change, but we don't see that much, because even an article around human rights, they are not even trying to honor the free, prior, and informed consent of indigenous peoples. And we are the ones who are suffering the most, because we are in the front lines. We are the ones who are taking care, and we are the ones who are doing the most of the work. Because 80% of the biodiversity of the world is in the indigenous people's territories. Let's not take it for granted. It's a lot of work to do. So we need to act, and the work is now.